Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I am so excited today. We have a very, very special guest. In addition, we are actually going to be taping this live. So I'm super, super excited about that. Our special guest today is Linda Ugelow. And Linda is the author of this amazing book. Like, I could not put this book down, called The Light and the Limelight. And we're going to talk about her new book today and really the impact of why it's important to really overcome your fears so that the world can see you, the world can get to know you. Now, Linda is a speaking confidence coach by background, and she helps entrepreneurs and business owners like you transform your experience from speaking, out of dread and really turns it into really being a delight being on stage or off stage or being in the media or even in the meeting room. And today we're going to talk about her groundbreaking approach she talks about in her brand new book, The Light in the Limelight, Overcome Your Fear of Being Seen and Realize Your Dream. So please join me in welcoming Linda to our platform. Hey, Linda, how are you doing today?
I'm really excited to be here with you, Suzanne.
Oh, I am excited to have you with us. I'm very, very excited about that. I could not put your book down. It was an amazing book. It was so good that my kids were like, "Hello, mommy, we're here." You know.
Wow, that's music to my ears.
Yeah, it was amazing book, very well written and very, very good. I want to talk a little bit about your book today, and I want to talk about really what prompted you to write this book.
I wrote it because I myself was stricken by fear of being in the limelight. Even though I actually have been a performer on stage for decades, there was part of me that was pretty terrified of actually speaking. Like I would dance, I would sing, I'd be fine with all of that, but having to introduce a song really put me into a state of inner turmoil. And people probably didn't notice it from off the stage, but inside I was suffering. And it really came to a head when I became an online entrepreneur and I needed to get in front of people. I had my website, I had my business set up. And once you have all those things together, well, guess what? People need to find out about you. So there I was wanting to become more visible. And how do you do it? Well, you get on video when you're in the online space. And there was this amazing new app that came out that was going to change the online space forever called Periscope. I don't know if anyone has heard of Periscope, but it was the very first place you could live stream. Or there was another app called Meerkat. I don't think anyone has heard of that. So Periscope, the first adopters for Periscope said, get on every single day if you want to build your following. So that's what I did. I thought, okay, I'm going to do this too. I'm going to be an early adopter. I'm going to build my following. And it was terrifying. First day, I remember going outside and my finger hovering over podcasts and I'm wondering, can I do this? And my heart was pounding. And then I finally pressed it. And then suddenly you saw people coming in, from all over the world, scrolling on the screen. And I was like tongue-tied for a moment. And finally, after a few minutes, I'd calmed down, but not fully until, I don't know, an hour after it was over. And after a week of this, I called my video mentor and I said, are you afraid of this too? And she said, oh, everybody is afraid. Don't worry. After, 75 times, you'll be fine. And I'm like, 75 times? You got to be kidding. But I thought, if this is what it takes, this is what I'll do. And so I pulled myself together and day after day, I was trying to manage my fear. I would be doing jumping jacks and kicks and punches and dancing, meditation, power poses. I mean, you name it, I tried it. And then I got to that day, 75. Guess what? My heart was still pounding.
That's amazing.
It was
75
it was
times.
amazing. And then I realized, well, you know what? Maybe practice and experience is not the panacea for fear that people are always saying it is. Get enough experience, you'll be fine. I mean, 75 experiences. Now, I was probably getting better, but I wasn't feeling better. And that's when I decided, enough with this. I'm going to get rid of this fear. And when I made that statement to myself, I realized, actually, I've got a lot of tools in my toolbox. I have a master's degree in expressive therapies and movement studies. I've been a performer for 3 decades. I've done a ton of personal development. I'm sure I have something that's going to get rid of this. And so I made a list of all the things. And the first thing I did was something called focusing. I closed my eyes to connect with the fear because I thought before I get rid of it, what is it? Let's see what it is. And when I closed my eyes to ask, what is this fear trying to tell me? What came back was, I'm going to be attacked. I thought, wow, attacked. And suddenly a memory comes into my head of my sisters attacking me when I was a little kid, whenever my mom put me in the center of attention. Like, look how wonderful Linda is. Why can't you girls be more like Linda? Because I was the goody goody and they were naughty. Well, this was their cue after my mom left the room to kick me, call me stupid, tell me to shut up. And this was not once, but many times that this happened. And I realized in that moment, of course, I'm not comfortable being in the center of attention because there's a part of me that remembers it was dangerous. And then suddenly I realized this is what this whole thing is about, this fear of being seen and heard. It's not anything to do with what's going on. I mean, I have clients that I'll say, well, is it a toxic environment at work? And they go, no, everybody tells me how good I am, but they're terrified. Has nothing to do with the present, has everything to do with the past.
I love that. That's, really good points. I was reading your book, and one of the comments that you made in the book, and I'm gonna find that page because I think it's so good. It's about, about fear, and it says that fear is not the villain, it's the messenger. And Linda, it's amazing that, when you dug back into your fear of public speaking, a lot of it was related to just, just trauma, right? Trauma from, like, having 2 bigger sisters, right? That would punish you for getting attention at home for doing good, right? If they weren't getting it. So that's, very amazing with that how a lot of our fears, are not really necessarily made about what's in the moment, but it's made because of, what's going on. And one of our Facebook, viewers, she still remembers Periscope. So, that is awesome, Glendora, that you still remember, Periscope. And she actually still has friends from Periscope. So that's actually pretty neat too. Now that's interesting. After 75 times, you still felt fear.
Yeah, yeah. So, at that time, once I realized what it was about, then I started to comb through other experiences in my past. I was looking for any comments that might have been made to me that where I felt diminished or hurt or criticized or put on the spot, pressure to perform before I was ready. I just kind of like took a deep look in my what I call the psychic closet. That's like a Jungian psychological term of all the place where we hold all of our memories that may be conscious or unconscious. And whatever I could think of, I brought up, and I am kind of like a multimodality kind of a person. So I did things like emotional freedom technique. People might know it as tapping. I did a lot of forgiveness work. I danced because dance for everything. I journaled. I did all these things. And, within a week, my racing heart was gone. And I was happy. I was happy. I was thinking, yes, did it. Check. And I went on to do another 200 periscopes after that, but I was a lot happier. And in fact, the following week, I remember I had a really busy day and I got on Periscope and I said, I'm so happy to be here because my day's been so hectic and now I can just relax.
I love that. And it's interesting. Once you did the inner work, once you figure out the why and what the problem was, you're really able to overcome it and really start to enjoy just that showing up, right? Because
Yeah,
really, those things that were holding you back were really no longer there.
yeah,
And it's really important too, because especially in the world of entrepreneurship, that we really need to stand up and really let the world know who we are, right? I think I heard it probably a year ago, that term, first time personal brand, right? And so much of our work right now is done on camera, right? Especially in the COVID world. I know we're going back to the world of where we're able to meet in person, but so much of what we do is having to show up on camera. I mean, even for like a group meeting, you have to show up, right?
That's
On
right.
camera. And I remember like when our team first started using Zoom, I would have a meeting and like all the cameras would be off. I would just see like black spots with names. And then like I would tell them you need to turn your camera on. And then I would start to see pictures of them popping up names, and I'm like, that's not you, that's a picture. But, so much of our work now is really about being able to show up and being able to be authentic about who we are and comfortable in our own skin. And so, Linda, tell me about, how do we start to tackle, you know, being comfortable in the limelight, being comfortable on stage and showing up who we are authentically?
Well, the three-part framework I have in the book is called the Inner Freedom Framework. And the first piece is to reveal and heal, reveal what experiences and messages that we got that are holding us back. Because if we think of these as things we heard in the childhood, but when you're a child, you absorb things very deeply because we're wanting to be good. We want to be accepted. We want to fit in with the culture around us. So when people say, don't talk back to your elders, or children should be seen and not heard, or don't speak unless spoken to, these things, if you're a good child and you make that part of your personality, that you're a good listener, that you don't take up too much space, you don't bother people, you don't burden people, or I mean, any number of things can happen to us, of course, in terms of being shamed or bullied or belittled or having mean teachers and all of that, or just being graded for everything that we do in school. I think everyone has a bit of education trauma, truthfully, that we need to identify them and then clear them away. So that's reveal and heal. The second piece is to restore safety. Now, that could be finding environments where you feel more supportive that are not toxic, setting boundaries in places that may be a little toxic to you. But it's also looking at what you are doing in your inner dialogue, because a lot of people may not want someone who's belittling them from the outside, but you may be demeaning yourself from the inside. Like, when was the last time you looked in the mirror and you go, oh my God, you look like blah? Or, you put yourself down in so many small ways that are mean, but it's so common that you don't even notice it anymore. So it's so important to make a commitment to be as kind to yourself as you would a dear friend or a child that you want to be loving and supportive with. Because if you have a bully inside your head, you're not going to feel safe. And if you don't feel safe with yourself, you're not going to feel safe with other people. So that's the second piece, restore a sense of safety. And the third one is to repattern your habits, which is anything from the way you breathe, to the way you speak, to the way you express yourself, to the way you feel yourself relaxed or solid and confident and open. So like if you are in a habit of closing down or contracting your body in, even like, or visually, not looking around because you're afraid of seeing what other people are going to see, then it's replacing that, swapping that out with a sense of curiosity and widening your I think of this as a skill set of being more present, relaxed, and dynamic in your self-expression, becoming more of what you dream of being. So those are the three things: reveal and heal, restore a sense of safety, and to repattern your habits.
I love that. That's really great advice there with that, being able to show up from that standpoint. And, it's interesting because, I never thought about, when people are nervous, I always think, that's just me being nervous, me like afraid of like not knowing what to say or when I go on, that is that's just what's happening. But, from your research and what you've learned from working with clients, it's so much deeper than that, right? And you're right that when we beat ourselves up after it happens, it makes it not like a repeatable type of thing, right? If we beat ourselves up, and I like that term, bully ourselves for making mistakes.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. We have to be the people we want others to be for us. Because you know what? No one can be for you and support you 100% of the time. Your children can't do it, your spouse or partner can't do it, your friends. I mean, people may want to, but they can't. They've got other responsibilities and they're responsible for themselves. But you can be there for yourself 100% of the time.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so make it so.
definitely. I remember one of the things that I did when I was getting comfortable with the camera was, um, I would just watch myself over and over again, and, you know, the first time I did it, it was like it was painful to hit that replay button, right? It was absolutely painful. It was like, "Oh my gosh, like, I don't wanna watch this dork," right? And then, like, after watching it over and over again, what happened was over time, I would just get desensitized to it. And pretty soon it was just pretty normal,
Yeah.
from that standpoint. So that helped out a lot too with that.
Yeah,
Um
I'd love to make a comment about that 'cause, I have created what I call the inner critic to inner ally process. And what I like about this is that the critic's voice is actually very loud. It wants to be heard. And so the first step in it is to give it space to be heard. And I find that if I'm feeling resistance looking or listening to something that I've done, I say, okay, inner critic, I'm going to let you go to town. And I'll turn it on and I'll write down everything that I hate about this. But then you can take it a step further and say, okay, I know you don't like that I'm always holding up my chin. What would you have me do instead? And then I listen for words of wisdom. The critic actually has a standard, an aesthetic standard. I think that's where it comes from. It's like we know what we like, and we're not meeting that level of what we like. What it needs, though, is a kinder way of saying it, being more helpful, more supportive. So let it go to town first, and then allow yourself to go deeper with your inner critic and say, okay, what would you have me do instead? And after you get an answer, say, that sounds great. What else could I do? Oh, video myself over and over. Maybe relax your head so you feel like you're looking straight on. I actually happen to be someone who lifts my chin up a lot, and it's gotten better, but now I realize it's not that big a deal. And I think that's one of the things that, before we started recording, I said I opened my book and I opened it to this page of how, we get so caught up with how we look on video, but most people don't even notice the things that we notice. So it's very, beside the point. They're here to listen to you. They're here to learn. Here to be entertained, to get something for themselves. They don't really care if you're lifting your chin up.
Oh, yeah. I can't tell you how many YouTube videos that I watch, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." Um, did they just, like, put the camera up to their nose? But what they're saying is actually, like, really, really interesting, right?
Right,
And
and
you're
you
right.
went there for a purpose and you got what you needed and you're satisfied.
Exactly, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm back next week when it pops back on my feed. So tell me, like, if let's say for that person that's starting out and showing up and really trying to get comfortable, right? And I remember when I was at that point, and one of the things that I really wrestled with was just, that free living, you know what I mean? Just being able to say things randomly. And I had this fear of, I don't know what to say. I don't have anything to say? And how do you get over those fears? How do you get started and really start showing up on camera, start showing up on stages? What are those first steps that we need to take?
Well, I think you bring up an interesting question about what to say. And I mean, certainly figuring out what it is that you have to say is a skill set on its own. And it may or may not have to do with your fear of being seen and heard. Because the fear of being seen and heard is a little different than the fear of having the right things to say or being prepared with it. But so which would you like to go into? Giving space, I think that it's really helpful for you to have discussions with people. So invite yourself, give permission to yourself to have a dialogue with people who are in your industry and say, maybe let's have a discussion about this together a conversation that people can listen in on. And then you don't have to feel like, oh, I need to know my talking points. No, you can just have a conversation that people can listen in on. And if very few people show up, that's fine. Stakes are low, but you got that practice. So I think that we tend to think of, oh, we have to come out and be at a particular level of finesse and refinement. No, we don't. We can be on someone's podcast who's just starting out, be one of their first guests and get some experience being interviewed and allowing yourself to ramble a little bit if that's what it takes in order to find what it is that you have to talk about. When people ask you questions, that's the best way for you to figure out what you have to say. Sometimes it's a lot easier than if you are just making a video and you think, oh, what should I make a video about? That's much more difficult. So I recommend starting out with conversations with people and interviews. Both of those things are going to allow you to explore what it is that you have to talk about in your business. So let's say you have an art gallery, or let's say you have a soap factory. So you may not know in yourself, what do I have to talk about? But someone else may be curious, and you can follow their lead into what things that they want to know.
I love that. And Linda, one of the things that you talk about in your book, and I'm going to give you guys reasons to show up, okay? Reasons from this beautiful book here that you guys need to get right now. And one of the things that Linda talks about in her book was, and I'm going to do this quote unquote, right? Right, Linda, quote unquote. But it says, decades later, full of regret, she still wonders how her life would have unfolded had she been able to show up and share ideas that day. And then later on in the book, it says, if you're not getting out there, think about all the people who can't get your help, inspiration, or perspective. And the also, it may surprise you then to learn that the average number of private sessions I have with my clients is only 6 to 8. So, it's not lifetime work. It's really just getting started and looking at, what is missing in this world if you don't show up, right? If you don't show up and share the message that only you can share, right? Then who's going to show up for you? And
Yeah.
so, and it doesn't take a lot of work. So tell me about that, Linda. Only 6 to 8 sessions?
I know, isn't that wild? It's totally wild. Now, some people do, employ me for longer because they want to build more skills. But the actual getting over, like going through that psychic closet and finding those past experiences and messages and resolving them so they no longer get triggered, that doesn't take all that long. Now, it may not be that we get through everything all at once, because it's not like opening up a closet in your house and you can like dump everything out and you see what's there. When it's inside our neurophysiology and in long time ago memories, then sometimes things don't come up till later. But the thing is that you don't need to clear every single thing out all at once. You take 2 or 3 stories that were impactful, and it makes a measurable difference. Yeah.
I love that. Definitely.
And, people may feel resistant. Oh, I don't want to go through, like I had one client, I don't want to go through, do 2 years of therapy. I'm thinking, I don't want to do that either. But Louise Hay, many people know Louise Hay of Hay House, said, if you want to clean the house, you got to see the dirt. And that's how I feel about this too, is that if you want to clear the stuff that's keeping you in this place of anxiety, you got to look at it. It's not that hard. It doesn't take that long. Just clear it out.
Amazing. Very amazing. And you got to start, right? It
You got to
starts.
start.
Tell me about, with this fear, because you've been, obviously, you're a dancer, you're a professional speaker, you're a coach. Do you still have it? Like 200 periscopes later, or probably 2000 at this point. Do you still have that fear? Does it still show up?
I don't have fear anymore. I do have, sometimes my heart races for a couple of minutes, and usually it's around time. Like, oh my gosh, I forgot to put my makeup on, that kind of thing. Or maybe it's a new experience that I've never had before. And then I have, like I've been doing a lot of radio shows, and some of them, I do like 4 in a row, feels totally natural. It's like, oh yeah, I'm working, and then, okay, 10 minutes too, I want to prepare myself, put myself in a state of being that I want to be in, and it feels fine. And then if I haven't done it for like a month and then I'm doing a new radio show, then I might have a little bit of adrenaline rush, but it doesn't feel like fear. It just feels like, ah, but what can I say? It's kind of like, I know I can do this. It's like getting back on the horse again. And like until you sit in the saddle, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this now.
Got it, got it. So it's always there. That a little bit of that
A little
adrenaline
bit.
rush.
This is how I think of it. A little bit of cortisol is supposed to sharpen your brain, but too much closes the brain off from access. It's like cooking with salt. A little bit makes the dish tasty, too much ruins it.
Mhm.
So a tiny bit of, a little bit of butterflies that are there for a few minutes, you can, there is that saying, reframe the fear as excitement or something like that. When I was in a place of fear, it's like, oh, come on. I know the difference between fear and excitement. But now I can feel it's kind of like the Ferris wheel, like that rush, that adrenaline rush of the Ferris wheel, and you enjoy it, but you have a little bit of that hormone coursing through you. But it's not like it bothers you because you're excited to be doing what you're doing. And it's easy for you to be in that place of recognizing that.
Yeah, and I think as a speaker too, you have to bring that energy. If you don't bring the energy, nobody else is going to bring it. They're just going to look at you on stage. You'll have a bunch of people looking at you, taking notes. But yeah, and we've all seen the professor that has shown his backside the entire presentation. So you need to have a little bit of that cortisol running through your body to get that excitement into the speech. So definitely a great share. Now, one of the questions that I love to ask Linda as we wrap up is, if you could leave our listeners and our viewers with one piece of advice, what would that advice be?
I would say, I think I'm going to do two, but they're overlapping.
No, please do. We want more
Okay.
advice.
All right.
Advice is good.
So one is to visualize how it is that you want to feel when you speak before you do it. And start by relaxing your body. Like put yourself like lie down in your bed before you go to sleep or in the morning when you wake up, and feel yourself completely relaxed from head to toe. And then visualize yourself in that place where you're going to be speaking. So whether it's in a meeting or if it's you're going to get on video or you need to be on stage, to see yourself, envision yourself like speaking just the way you imagine in the best of worlds being, and feeling exactly how you want to feel. This is kind of mental rehearsal, is what Olympic athletes do. It's what top musicians do, and you can use it too. It's very, very powerful. And the second piece that I would love to invite people to explore is on camera, since we are talking about cameras so much, and we're on camera right now, and everybody is on camera right now, is to turn on your camera and practice relaxing on it. So with the camera going, you can just close your eyes and talk yourself out loud through how you're relaxing your body and allowing that camera to witness you. I'll close my eyes right now. You can witness me relaxing into my body, and you can do this too. And when you practice this, then as you turn on the camera, and you've done this so many times, then it becomes an automatic physical response to being in front of the camera, where you go into a place of being connected to your body.
I love that. I feel like I just went through a yoga session of being on camera. That was amazing. Next time I look at that camera and it's got that big old circle in front of my face, I'm gonna go ahead and
Just
do
go,
some
yeah,
yoga on it
relax.
too.
Mhm.
I know one of the things that I used to do is I would practice in a blank empty Facebook group. So guys, don't go search for this blank empty Facebook group because you won't find it. It's private. But I would literally go in this Facebook group that had nobody in there, and I would just talk about the day and just say anything. But definitely, I love Linda's advice about just getting comfortable, relaxing, finding that zen with the camera, and and not getting so intimidated by that big old circle that's looking at you.
Yeah. And I love your piece of advice too, of going place to practice, and I think that the cameras and the computer both amazing tools for us to practice. And I think it is first and foremost a tool. And use it. Use it to your advantage. And then when you feel like you're ready, then you can stretch out your comfort zone little bit by little bit. And before you know it, you'll be doing everything that you feel is going to benefit you in your business.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's definitely a skill that you have to master because in the world of reels and TikTok videos and um I'm butcher this word logarithms where videos are capturing more attention than just stale pictures, right? This is going to be an important skill that entrepreneurs need to learn in order to communicate and really reach a wider audience is learning to speak on camera, learning to speak on stages. I know when I first started my business, a lot of the business that did come in through the door came in the door through speaking engagements. So this
Mm.
is definitely something that you want to invest in and learn how to do. Now, Linda, again, I love this amazing book. Guys, go on Amazon, get your copy, "Delight in the Limelight," by Linda Ugelow. And so you definitely want to make sure you take advantage and get a copy of this book and beautiful white book with like light purple writing and beautiful picture. You can't miss it. Definitely go get that. And then, Linda, how else can our audience reach you in order to talk to you more, to learn about getting comfortable in public speaking and work with you?
For sure. I do have a guided visualization of the type that I just described that is free to download. It's part of my speaker empowerment kit. And you can get that on my website, and you can go to empowermentkit.com and find it there.
And I am going to go ahead and put that link in the show notes, empowermentkit.com, as well as Linda's book, so that you can order that, so that you can get comfortable in the limelight also and really just learn to serve your audience by showing up.
That's
Thank,
great. Thanks so much for doing all of that.
thank you, Linda, for joining us and sharing your wisdom.
So glad to be here, Suzanne.